Alright guys, it is Thursday. Just got done Z-chroming the gas door area, and 25 pieces in total. So I body worked everything and trying to, I was mixing up Z-chrome, so I just wanted to have all these other parts ready as well. So I got the gas door done. I got the steering column collar. It had a little bit of pitting in it, mainly on the face side of it, so I loaded it up a little bit with that. Here's this is my crossbar that goes across the front of my frame rails that holds my finned aluminum tube style transmission cooler. I had to do lots and lots of metal work and body work on this stuff. There's my forward body mount covers I made, and this is my throttle linkage. Got my drip rail pieces there. This is my TV cable bracket. This is my windshield washer bracket. What I did to a lot of these parts, there's square nuts welded to these, and so what I did was I fully welded all the way around them. I had them tack welded before. Then I went through with a ball burr and I radiused the sides and then put filler around it with my finger, and then went back and blocked it with a piece of tubing with 80 on it. And so everything looks, flowed and molded in on all these little parts. I've got my steering column over here. This is the little tube that my coolant temp wire will go to. This bolts to the intake. I've got my washer jar lid, steering column piece. It has a stamping in that steering column collar. That's the turn signal part where your turn signal lever comes out that hole, and it has a stamping in it, D1 something guide, D155. So I filled it, and it's been a lot of work. My fingers are raw. I did 5 full days of body work on a stool at a table. If you haven't seen that yet on video, this is an exact replica of the hood bird for a 55. I made that out of sheet metal. This is my wing nut for my air cleaner. It sets at the same angle. Once it's tight on the air cleaner, it sets at the same angle as the one on the hood. I shaped all that and made it out of steel. I had this built and painted, but the wing was a little bit longer on one side by 1/8 of an inch. So I used an 1/8 inch cutoff wheel, and I sliced it and then welded it back on and then redid it again. So it should be pretty well good to go after this. Let's see, I've got the underneath side of the deck lid Z-chromed. I did lots of smoothing on this. There's lots of plates welded in to smooth this out. Lots and lots of stuff. I built little cover plates to go on here. That's why the strap's welded across. These will bolt on with a couple of stainless fasteners. I did that because trying to get the wire up through the deck lid and over to where the trunk light goes is going to be a bear if I plated those in. So I made little covers. That way I can kind of get my little wire down in there and hook that wire and run it up through there. Metal wire to hook the electrical wire, if that makes sense. But anyway, I smoothed all this out so it should look really, really slick after it's sanded. And I done my core support. Now the core support, it took a ton of body work. From the factory, there's deep grooves all around the edge of this on both sides, and it's from where it was made, And so I ended up putting filler. I just wiped the whole face and the back side and went back and blocked it to get it out. I had to do a clearance piece of, I used a piece of tubing right here for clearance. This is for a coolant line for my overflow bottle. But anyway, this is a very nice core support. It came with the car. There's no pitting down inside. Usually these are really, really pitted. This one is very, very clean. I sandblasted the crap out of that thing. This is my cold air pipe that I made out of muffler pipe. It's a 4-inch mandrel bend, and then I added like 12 inches to it. I used a K&N logo. I don't know if you can see that out here. It's kind of dark. Anyway, I cut it out and put it in there. I did the same thing on the bracket here. I had it plug welded right here in the middle with a hole drilled in it. And I ended up welding it all the way around and then doing the ball burr around it and then putting filler on my finger and going all the way around it. So it should be molded in quite nice. And then that's a custom bracket I made. I've got it molded on. These are my radiator baffles, and so these ought to block out pretty straight. And then here's my custom air cleaner. This is a factory style air cleaner. This is a 4-inch piece of pipe I've put in here and welded on. I've welded the bottom to the top, and I took off the long snorkel that these things have and just put this on there. Now, one thing, I had this mostly done in mock-up. I just had a little bit more welding and grinding to do, but this bead right here stopped about there, so I ended up pulling it down. I used a piece of steel rod and perimeter welded it, and then file fit it basically. So now the bead goes down onto the piece I put on, so that's kind of neat and custom. What else? So I think this is going to end up being very, very, very straight now. So I'm going to block this out in a couple of days, and I'm going to unmask it, and I'm going to remask it out wider, and I'm going to 2K it, and then go back and wet block it, and then the back half of the car will be, well, after I wet sand the rest of the car, it'll be ready for a reshoot. All right, so here's another little project I did during them 5 days that I think is kind of neat. Others may think it's stupid, but I don't really care. It's my car. So I took some panel bond and a Hot Wheel car, a 55 two-door hardtop, which is what this is, and I cut the side off of it. And I used some washers for wheels, and I panel bonded on that Hot Wheel car and those washers for wheels and tires. And I put the panel bond on real heavy to where when I pressed it on, it kind of smooshed it out. And then I went in there and I kind of did it with a fine ball burr. It roughed it in pretty good. Now I've got a lot of detail work to finish on this. There's a couple of pinholes I see. So I'll go back and spot putty those, and then I'll go back and edge all of this really, really nice, and then I'll 2K it. Now this panel goes behind the dash right here. These cars originally had a speaker there. Most people know that. Some of you don't. Anyway, it took a 6x9 speaker, so I took the speaker out of the factory bracket and I welded in this sheet metal. Now I 90-degree bent the sides, so once it's in there, you don't see down inside the dash either side. Because if you got one of these cars and you don't have a speaker in there, you can see behind the dash. You can see what's back there if the sun hits it just right. So what I did was I changed the mesh out on this bezel that goes here. This is a lot bigger mesh, so you can really see behind that dash. So it has to have a block-off plate back there, basically. I put in speaker pods. I made out of exhaust tips, and I've got one on each side of the dash, so my little 3.5-inch kickers go in there. So I don't need a speaker over here on one side of the car. So anyway, I will, after all the detail painting's done, and this is primed and then painted for end, it will be all flat black. So it'll be pretty much hidden. It'll be so subtle that if this car is at an outside show, the sun will have to be in like this side of the car to hit it just right for you to see that there's a 3D image 55 behind there. You will be able to see it through the mesh, but it's going to be tough to spot. I've done this several times in the past to some of my cars. I did a Monte Carlo SS one time, an '87 Monte Carlo Super Sport, and I custom did the firewall, and I did an SS Monte Carlo Hot Wheel in the firewall. It's just kind of cool. Anyway, so I'll mock this up and I'll kind of show you what it looks like. So you can definitely see it now that it's that yellow primer color, but yeah, there's a 3D image of a 55 back there. So that when that's flat black back there, you're not going to see that unless you're riding in the car and you might catch it, you know what I mean? But it'll be so subtle and dark back there, that flat black, it's gonna be pretty neat. So anyway, that's what I've been up to. Bodywork, 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 and it's all minute little stuff. And man, it takes a toll on me. I am pretty sore. My fingers are raw. Nothing new if you sand a lot. Anyway, if some of you haven't caught this speaker bezel. This is an original that I had re-chromed. I went with a chrome Belair script here instead of gold. This originally would have been gold. The gold anodizing always seems to tarnish a little bit, so I ended up going with chrome. This is a reproduction clock lens, but the movement is actually a movement from Hobby Lobby. It takes a AA battery, and I modified it to where it fits in there and runs on a AA. The backing on that, if you can see that, all the little bow ties, that is cut from old used pieces of dash trim. That trim goes in here. If you're familiar with Belair 55s, it has a little bow tie dash trim, little bitty tiny black bow ties all over it. So I have a piece in there, I have a piece in my heater control, and I redid my speedometer with it in the back of it too. So I changed all my needles to this orange color. It matches my autometer 2 1/16 gauges that are going on my A-pillar, so that's why I have orange needles. Anyway, guys, that's what I've been up to, and I'm glad it's over. It's been a lot of freaking work. I got my other spark plug wire loom built. I had one done. I had to finish the other one. I got it done. I got some finish grinding to do, and then I'll be doing body work on those. But man alive, this piece here, this is what my tube style tranny cooler bolts to here on these L brackets. I had to cap the ends up here. Capped both ends, but also put a piece of tubing down inside so when I bolted it down it didn't crush it. I had to put a piece of pipe in here. It's a channel for a transmission line for clearance, and I beveled all these L brackets that I have welded to it. Those are all beveled out. Once those are blocked, that should look good. I even did the little square nuts on the back are beveled in, so they're molded in. It's just intricate work. And you can really see it was a little bit tricky when you're doing the filler work. This piece actually has a nice rolled edge. It's rounded, so the L bracket was straight. So I had to, you can see that the light coming off on that, it's all molded in. So this is going to look fantastic when it's painted. It'll be satin black to match the chassis. Anyway, I've been hard at it. As you can see, lots and lots of work. I've got to go tomorrow work on a customer's car, so this will be have plenty of time to dry, and then I'm going to go ahead and tackle the deck lid and the gas door and the quarter panel so I can get 2K on them. I've decided I'm going to go ahead and spray the deck lid, the gas door, and the back half of the car all the same day instead of doing them piece by piece. So anyway, guys, that's the update on the 55. I'm going to go in and wash up.